you for joining us for this week's Lunch and Learn on Picky Eaters, just in time for Thanksgiving.
Before we begin, we'd like to know, for those of you watching, what's the most unique meal your picky eater has requested? Comment below. We want to know. In my years of experience, I've had a lot of different strange combinations that kids want to put together. And I've had a lot of kids that really refuse to eat, and they're just having the chicken fingers during Thanksgiving. While you guys are commenting, we would like to introduce ourselves. I'm Margie. I'm an SLP and feeding therapist at PPT. I've been working as an SLP for over 20 years, and my specialties were always the most challenging kids. And when I started working with challenging kids, I found out that a lot of the challenging kids also had difficulty with feeding. As a parent, I felt the need to research this more and help parents with their children with meal times and with creating a healthy and positive experience with food and with family experiences. So that's how I got into it.
And my name is Nicole. I am an OT and feeding therapist at Progressive Pediatric Therapy. I've been an OT working in pediatrics for 17 years now. And I've always been very interested in feeding disorders and behaviors surrounding feeding. It's always been a passion of mine ever since I started. I've also struggled being the mom of a child with a feeding difficulty. My daughter refused to transition to baby food, so it was a struggle, and she was in feeding therapy herself for almost 6 or 7 months. So I know firsthand how difficult and stressful it can be for families. My passion in this area led me to obtain specialty certifications in feeding interventions and oral motor skills, and have taken countless courses on this topic.
So today we're going to give you some tips and some tricks to help your picky eater expand their food horizons just in time for the holidays. So it's a holiday time. Don't beat yourself up. Holidays can be stressful, so remember to be lenient with tradition, meaning without taking any traditional foods or activities away, think about adding everyday comforts that will make the day easier for your child. Something like a favorite toy, a stuffed animal. Some kids like to hold something soft and squishy. Kids like to hold blocks. So whatever helps your child get through a time that is a little more stressful for them and will create more anxiety for them, you want them to have that piece that will bring them comfort. It's okay if your child eats their picky food today. Make sure to include some of the child favorite foods into your holiday menu planning. Why? This is a change in their routine. They have cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents visiting. This may be a very large change for them to try something new. With all the commotion, the last thing they may want to do is try a new food. But to prepare for this, consider a few things. One, maybe make one of the holiday plates in the weeks leading up to the holiday meal to prepare the child in seeing this new food and possibly trying it. I know I've suggested this with families that come in here as they prepare for the holidays. I also do this with birthdays. A lot of times with birthdays, I'll have the parent start bringing in cake or cupcakes so that the child's anxiety decreases when they're put in front of this cake. So in the case of Thanksgiving, you're going to have turkey and mashed potatoes and green beans, whatever is your family tradition for that. So maybe pick one or two of those plates where your child can help you prepare that meal and see it in front of them. So if you're going to somebody's house, you can be the one to bring that dish. That way your child can help you with it. Also, if you're used to packing a bento box for your child when you go out, start unpacking those items into a plate. I have a a lot of friends of mine and a lot of parents who pack the bento box, and wherever they go, the child just eats out of that bento box. So you want to start getting them used to, we take all these food items out of the bento box and we eat in a plate like everybody else does. That way the child can feel more included, and you raise the mealtime expectation. We know that everyone has expectations for the holidays, so it's important to remind family members that your child is eating their picky food today because it's a special occasion. You don't want any added pressure to your child or yourself for that matter.
Another tip during the holiday season is to encourage messy play. Let your kids help you cook and engage them in meal planning and preparation. Messy play is extremely beneficial for your child. It gives your little one the opportunity to receive feedback from their food regarding different textures, temperatures, colors, and qualities, and also quantities. This sensory play promotes exploration and helps build a positive environment around their food. Don't worry if your child is reluctant to engage in messy play at first. That's okay. This may take some time. You could try touching the food with utensils or a toy and work your way up to touching with their hands. It's important to take your child's cues as to what they're willing to handle. It also helps to desensitize the child to something new by first looking at it, being close to it, touching it, and smelling it. The more exposure they have to different sensory properties of food, the less anxiety they will have. If they can touch their foods first, it teaches their mouths what to expect, and it offers repeated exposure, increasing comfort. It's fun, and it's a less sensitive interaction than placing food in your mouth. Also invite your child to help with meal planning. Ask them to help make some of the holiday menu decisions by giving them choices that you can make together, such as, would you prefer sweet potatoes mashed or roasted? A child that helps with menu or meal preparation is more likely to eat. Another tip is to also invite your child to cook. Engage younger children to help stir, open packages, clean fruit or vegetables, clear or move food from one surface to another. Older children can be taught to chop foods or assist with using the stove or oven with supervision. Also encourage sampling during the preparation phase. And remember, when you're trying something new, make it fun for you and your child. Why? Because we want our child to be interested in the food. Pair it with something they enjoy, like a toy they only get at the dinner table or music. Also remember to be positive with feelings and language surrounding foods, using positive words such as yummy and that smells great. And when they're trying something new, get really excited about it. Make a big deal. Tell them what a brave bite that was. Be proud of the small accomplishments, which make them more likely to repeat the behavior. Also remember to start slow. A heaping spoonful may be too much. First, try having your child lick or kiss the food on the spoon. Too much at once can be very overwhelming for your child, so remember to keep it small and take your child's cues as to whether or not they can handle just a little bit more. Try giving it to them in a different way. Try feeding your child, let your child feed themselves, a different spoon, a different plate. You could make it a game, have them feed a doll or a toy, or if it's safe, feed the family pet.
New foods, where do we start? Start with things they already like and go from there. Try to make food connections. Many holiday foods may be new to your child. Find similar properties that link these new foods to your child's favorites. Show that mashed potatoes may be smooth and creamy, just like their favorite yogurt, and that some dishes may have cinnamon, just like their favorite applesauce. These connections make unfamiliar foods seem more comfortable. Textures. Let them use their hands to explore food. This may help make it easier for them to understand what it might feel like in their mouth. Flavors. Again, tie the flavors and smells to familiar favorite foods. You could say something like, this cranberry kind of smells like your Paw Patrol yogurt. I betcha it's Paw Patrol jelly. Or, you remember when we were watching our favorite dinosaur eating the plants in the movie? I betcha he was eating green beans just like these. Present these ideas in an exciting way, leading them to the exciting new discovery you both made. How do I know if my child has a feeding problem? It's developmentally normal for children to be a little picky. Everyone has their preferences, and it's okay if your child is not a fan of trying something new. We all have foods that we do not like, and that's okay. We need to respect that, but we also need to distinguish what's normal picky eating and when it is truly a problem. But if your child has an extremely limited food inventory and does not include at least one or two items from each food group, or has an extremely negative reaction to trying new foods, behaviors like throwing up or gagging, maybe your child has a hard time having food touch on their plate or watching other people eat. I have children that just watching other people eat sparks gagging response or even vomiting. So if you see signs like these, your child may be showing some signs of ARFID. What's ARFID? ARFID is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. So talk to your pediatrician for a referral.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about how OT or an occupational therapist would work in the area of feeding. We would address a variety of skills, including fine motor skills, visual perceptual skills, sensory processing, and behavior. In the area of fine motor skills in OT, we address the motor skills needed to successfully pick up our food, maintain grasp on a utensil. We also work on the coordination it takes to bring food from the plate to our mouth. Visual perceptual skills include a huge component of independence in feeding. Your eyes need to be able to process where the food is in relation to your hands, then tell your hands how much pressure to place on the utensil in order to get the food on it, and then to bring it to your mouth. In OT, we work on the ability to coordinate our eyes and our hands successfully. In the area of sensory processing, we address sensory-related issues that surround feeding. Children need to be in an optimal arousal state in order to participate in successful eating. They need to be able to maintain a calm, alert state with minimal distractions. They also need to take in and tolerate all of the sensory properties of the foods that they're interacting with. Our senses play a big role in our acceptance or rejection of certain foods. The way food smells, looks, or is perceived to feel in our mouth determines our preferences. Having food preferences is normal. However, when our senses overreact to some of our sensory properties of food, it makes exploration and tasting foods hard for your child. In the area of behavior, we can address behaviors that surround feeding. We can work on appropriate mealtime behaviors such as sitting at the table and holding utensils. And we can also address refusal behaviors through a behavioral frame of reference, meaning that we use rewards and positive reinforcement to incentivize a child to try and explore new foods.
How does speech therapy work on feeding? The truth is, occupational therapy and speech therapy, we overlap in some areas of feeding, but there are other areas that we specialize in. For speech, we work a lot on chewing. If there is a weakness in chewing, we're able to, after we do a oral motor examination, we're able to determine, is that part of the reason that there's a problem with feeding? So we'll work on strengthening the oral motor structures to help with chewing. Is there a problem with swallowing? We also are trained to determine, is there an issue with swallowing? And typically when you have a child who's a picky eater, swallowing isn't the problem. It's usually the strength, the chewing, or it could be sensory. So we need to make a determination. Is it sensory or is it oral motor? And then when a child has had so many negative experiences, it could even be that they've had the flu before and they had several episodes of vomiting that has played a part in that negative experience. And now psychologically we have an issue, which is part of ARFID also. When that's the case, we need to work on behavioral techniques so we can help change that negative experience and make it a positive experience. So that's how speech addresses a lot of things. In a nutshell, we have a lot of techniques to work on that.
Well, that wraps up our Lunch and Learn for picky eaters. We hope you can take some of these tips and tricks and apply them to your busy holiday season.
Thank you for joining us and have a happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe.